can't imagine anybody else is watching us. So we're on channel 22, Comcast, YouTube, Ustream via the town's website, and also live streaming on Facebook. You know that if you're watching us. If not, you can always watch us later. Everything will be archived. Thanks to Tim Brezovic, who's in the house, as always. I'm Tyler Ward. Tonight I'm joined by fellow select board members Bill Taylor and Ed Youngst. We have Town Administrator Nicole MacStay and Chief Ed Walker is with us to discuss an MOU for portable radios. And of course, as always, Allie Kreutz will be taking minutes for us to read later. Tonight's agenda. We'll vote to approve that memorandum of understanding / grant application for portable radios and authorize Chief Walker to sign on behalf of the select board. We'll appoint Colin Murdough to the Heritage Commission. We'll discuss a request for reimbursement of roadway expenditures. And hopefully we'll authorize Nicole MacStay to execute all documents related to current capital projects and grants. And we'll also authorize former town administrator, current consultant Rodney Bartlett to represent town of Peterborough on EPA Local Government Advisory Committee. And then we'll hear, I guess maybe from Allie, about an update on the new town website. I know we've been waiting a long time for that, and the pandemic has slowed things down, but good news to hear that some of that's going on. And then at 6 p.m., we'll have a joint budget committee / select board meeting. We'll be discussing Department of Public Works and IT. So after we leave that, come back at 6 for that. All right off the bat, Chief, we've been hearing about portable radios for a while.
Yeah, so thank you, Tyler. As you folks are aware, for this will be the third year in a row that we've had a budget request for a capital reserve fund for replacement of portable radios for the fire department totaling $120,000. Several weeks ago, we were asked by the town of Hampshire if we wanted to join with them in what has become a regional application for radios, upgraded radios. As I mentioned previously, the portable radios, a number of the local radios, pretty much for every fire department in the state, were replaced in 2003 and the grant that was secured through the Department of Safety. Over time, departments have had varying levels of success in replacing those radios. Antrim this year looked to apply for a Fire Act grant to replace those, and with the really the criticality of interoperable communications within public safety, one of the things that was suggested for the grant application was looking at making the regional grant. So the Antrim Fire Department, through Chief Marshall Gale and Assistant Chief Thomas Beaumont, reached out to communities that border them and to work mutually to see if folks are interested. Ourselves, Antrim, who's the grant sponsor, the towns of Temple and Bennington, are all on board with this regional grant application. So this grant is to FEMA through what's referred to as Fire Act, which is the Assistance Firefighting Grant Program, AFP program. And what the request is tonight is to authorize me to sign a memorandum of understanding on behalf of the town of Peterborough to have us partner along with this grant. So the grant setup would be similar to other grants, and the numbers here for you. So we have been looking to save up to our capital reserve fund $120,000 for replacement of radios. Cost under this grant program total for our radios, including programming and installing, $26,570.49. If this grant were to be successful, the federal government would pick up 95% of that project, and the town share 5%, or $6,325. Really be saving the town, almost $120,000 for that. So again, there are no guarantees going forward with this, but where this grant opportunity came up as a regional grant, we felt that it was, incumbent, particularly where we're looking to buy these radios, that we hop on this as quickly as we can. The only real, it's not a downside to it, the only impact is this grant would probably, if the federal government goes through the timeline typically goes through, will not be until next fall sometime, where we'll sort of find out what departments nationwide are receiving these grants. You know, we certainly would delay the order for radios until such a time that we either receive the grant or town manager has determined definitively we will not be receiving the grant. That's really the only downside to it. That's for the money the towns put aside. That's a capital reserve fund that's established for fire equipment and apparatus. And, you know, certainly just sit there as a capital reserve fund and, you know, distribute, to be expended, you know, as intended by the voters. So really, at this point in time, I'm asking the select board for permission to authorize me to sign this MOU on behalf of the town and hopefully save ourselves about $120,000.
That's pretty cool, and another excellent opportunity to collaborate with a surrounding town.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and kudos to Antrim for reaching out to those communities to provide that. And you know, time is perfect for us, and this is something we've had on our horizon, on our radar. You know, it's critical for the fire department moving forward. It's perfect time.
Great, nice work. Anybody have any questions?
No, I don't have any. I read it through that stuff today that was on that thing. Makes all kinds of sense.
And John Radigan has reviewed this, town council has reviewed this and approved it, so you know, we already know that's, he's squared over that.
Great. So I'll go straight away and make a motion that we authorize Chief Walker to sign on behalf of the select board on this memorandum of understanding FEMA assistance to firefighters grant.
I'll second it.
Third. Seconds and thirds. Any further discussion? No. All right, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Yeah, great. Good news.
All right. Thank you very much, folks.
Nicely done. Thanks.
Chief.
Yes.
I just, if I could ask, I have a question, and also, small world. Claire and I were walking in a park near here recently, and met a young woman, and it turns out you probably know her mother. She's the fire chief in New Ipswich.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and she actually, Chief Lund from New Ipswich, was actually recently in Florida until about 3 days ago.
Yeah, well, we met the daughter, very nice
Yep.
young woman, and, you know, just, she saw a Boston Red Sox hat, and of course, that always leads to some conversation, and I said, well, I'm sure that our chief knows your mother, so I'll have to tell
Very
her.
well.
The other thing is, I know I'm off agenda, but Claire did see today something about the number of cases, this COVID thing in Peterborough seems to have gone up considerably again. I don't know, I think she told me 26 or something.
Yep.
It's like that. Is
Yeah,
it?
so one of the things we saw was an uptick in cases in our congregate care facilities, specifically Pheasantwood. Earlier, Pheasantwood was identified as an outbreak. They believe, according to the last press release I saw, had 31 positive cases in their facility. We've got a couple of other cases that have had a couple of other facilities that have had some cases that are congregated there. The overall number of cases in the outside of those facilities still remains around the 8 to 10, 12 mark, which is, you know, sort of consistent with what it has been.
Right.
But yeah, we've had, unfortunately, you know, we did really well for a while, but we had a little bit of an uptick in those facilities.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I was gonna, while we had Chief here, I was gonna ask for an update on that, so there you have it, great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you, folks. Have a great evening.
You too, thanks.
Bye.
Next up, relatively quick item here, I'll make a motion that we appoint Colin Murdough to the Heritage Commission. I think it'll be a great addition. I sat in on a meeting the other night with the group, and Colin had some great things to add, and he seemed interested. The Heritage Commission is currently working on working with the state, trying to figure out their main project now is the Yates McGreal house up near the hospital that's, under the state's care and has fallen into disrepair.
Oh, yeah.
It's in a rough shape, but it's historically rather important building, and so Colin joined in on that to help them with that, and so I think it'll be a good addition to the team.
I'll second that motion. Did you make a motion?
I
I'll
did.
second.
Yes.
Great. All right.
Colin's also my neighbor.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
nice guy.
he's a great guy. I've gotten to know him. He was one of the 2 people in charge of selling the real estate up where I live now, and on that building and on the new building. So I see him up there a lot. Nice guy.
Yeah, really nice. All right, so all in favor then?
Aye.
Right.
All right, welcome, Colin. Again, all our volunteers help the town go around. Good thing. Next up, we don't actually have Seth here to talk to about reimbursement for roadway expenditures.
Nope, you've got me.
All right.
So this is one of our regular business items. We're looking to get reimbursed. This is the roadway work that Seth and Public Works puts forward every year to town meeting. This year we conducted repaving, shimming, and other rehabilitative work on Windy Road, Laurel Street, Shadow Lane, Tarbell Road, and the bike path that is accessed via Tarbell Road. So we're just looking to recoup those expenses from the expendable trust fund.
I would make that motion to recoup those expenditures from the expendable trust fund.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion apart from saying how great it is to have roads without potholes?
I know. They do a great job with that program, I think. I mean, I've been on a couple of those roads already that they did this summer. They were badly needed, and they did a great job.
Yeah, and as someone who's still fighting buying a new truck with an '01 Tacoma, I appreciate smoother roads and not having to repair my truck as much. So, I think I made a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes, Bill seconded.
Right, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Right. Okay.
great. Yeah, good work, Seth.
I have a question about that, Nicole.
Sure.
Nicole. The intent is to leave the remaining 97,403.47, the expendable trust for savings towards
Yes.
future reconstruction work. Does that mean that will come off of next year's 400,000?
May not necessarily come off next year's. We have some pretty big projects coming up. As you can imagine, Pine Street's going to be pretty expensive, and also Grove Street, because I believe part of Grove Street will include redoing the deck on the Grove Street Bridge. So there may be some additional costs there. So what we'd like to do is build up as much as we can in savings to help to balance out the additional expenditures on those 2 roads. But we're making incredibly good progress. Actually, Seth is, of course, going to be joining us later tonight, so he's going to talk quite a bit more about the roadway program and what they plan on doing for work this year, or rather this coming year, and then in FY22.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, and I think those 2 roads you mentioned really need work for sure, so.
Yeah, and they're tricky. There's a lot of infrastructure in the ground on those. Makes them a bit more complicated than some of the other ones that we've done.
Alrighty then. Next up, we have several items that we may or may not approve Nicole to sign on behalf of the select board. So I'll just go straight away and make the motion to authorize Town Administrator Nicole MacStay to act on behalf of the select board and execute any and all necessary documents related to the Nutton Ordinary Community Development Block Grant, the Townhouse Rehabilitation L-CHIP grant, the Cold Stone Springs project, including the memorandum of understanding between Peterborough and Jaffrey, any loans, grants, and applications for reimbursement. Also, the library project, including pay requisitions, and the PUC grant for the biomass heating/cooling system. And finally, the last item, FEMA grants related to COVID-19 applications and reimbursement requests, and the Fly Pond Dam project. I have a second on that.
I'll second it, and I have a question or two about that.
Sure, great.
When these various projects come up to be worked on and there's memorandums of understanding, I mean, the select board the select board should see it, have an opportunity to review those. And I think what this motion does, it just gives blanket authorization so that we don't have to make those individual motions every time.
That is correct. The memorandum of understanding actually is, as a for instance, that's one that we had drafted up last spring, well, actually last winter and into last spring. We just finalized it with Jaffrey, and Jaffrey has already signed off on it. So it was the last piece before we get to work on Cold Stone Springs. So, and of course, I'll send you copies of that.
Great.
But then the rest of it is, a lot of it is really basic day-to-day work. For instance, the requisitions having to do with the library project. These are just regular payments, payment requests. Right. Not dissimilar from the check warrants that you folks sign every week. Other ones, yeah. I was going to say other documents such as the Townhouse Rehabilitation L-CHIP grant. We're just looking to close out that grant at this point. We've completed the work on the townhouse, and we just need to finish it up. So there's going to be just some final paperwork that goes along with that, and we'll get that signed off and sent over to Concord. So these are just little things that Rodney had been authorized to do over the last couple of years, and we need to transfer that authorization.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's all we're really doing is just transferring that authorization.
All right, that's what I was going to add, that we had already authorized Rodney.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. All right, so a motion and a second, and any other further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One last thing I'm sorry, I want to drop in real quick. If we could also authorize Seth McLean to sign off on paperwork for related to the Main Street Bridge project. Really the same authorization. Rodney is also authorized to sign off on the Main Street Bridge project paperwork and documentation. But you're required to have an LPA certification to do that, which is not something that I have. But as I said, both Seth and Rodney do. Seth would be back up to Rodney, or vice versa.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor for Seth signing off on the bridge project?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Great, yeah, good call, thank you. And finally, not finally, in our first order of new business, finally, authorize Rodney to represent the town of Peterborough on EPA Local Government Advisory Committee.
So we worked this through with the EPA because Rodney is still on as a part-time employee of the town as our capital projects manager. He can still represent the town of Peterborough and the state of New Hampshire on the Local Government Advisory Committee, advisory committee. So they'd love to have him continue on. Rodney wants to continue on. He really enjoys working with that group, and I think it's very beneficial to us.
All right.
Yeah, I would move that we authorize or appoint him to continue to represent the town of Peterborough at local advisory board.
Second. All right. I don't think there's any more discussion needed on that one. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, aye. All right. right, now the moment we've all been waiting for. An update on the new town website. Hi.
Hi, here I am. So update, I was tasked with finding this is some background. I was tasked with finding a company to help us with an updated design for the official Peterborough website. And after extensive research, we signed a contract with a company called Authorize, and that was a little more than a year ago now. But since then, it's been a collaborative effort between their techs and designers, myself, and our awesome team in IT. They've been wonderful. And we really only have a few more things to take care of, and then we can go live. So hopefully by the end of this month. So I wanted to give you a sneak peek of the new website and tell you about some of the features we are most excited about. So bear with me, I'm gonna figure out how to share my screen here.
You gonna show everybody or just us?
I'm gonna show everybody. This is a little sneak peek here. Okay, so screen. Isn't it great? I'm just kidding. This is obviously the old website. So I just wanted to have this pulled up for comparison.
Don't scare us, Al.
Yeah.
So I get calls very regularly from residents who have looked for information on our site that is there, sometimes right here on our front page, but they're not able to find it with all the noise. You can see that it's pretty congested, so it's understandable that people have trouble finding things. So one of our goals for the new design was for something cleaner and simpler to navigate and, of course, more modern and aesthetically pleasing. So we'll hop over to the new site. Let me get my link here. Okay, here we go, drum roll. So this is the new site. It's not live yet, like I said, but hopefully will be very soon. So you can see right away it's a lot less congested. We kept our autumnal color palette for the design in order to be consistent with the Welcome to Peterborough signs and other town branding that we have. But we brightened things up a little bit with some blue for contrast. You see this nice photo across here and the text. We can edit both of those. So when it gets a little warmer, we can change this to something lovely and green to get people in the mood for spring. For the convenience of our residents, these are our quick link icons that are kind of right here front and center. So these link to the pages that our metrics indicated were most sought out by visitors to the old site. So town clerk, recycling and trash, online payments, those were big ones. So now people are just a single click away from those. And if we see a need to add more of these buttons, then we can certainly do that, which I think is pretty nice to have things right there. So we've got our social media icons right up here, which is under the very visible search bar. And you'll see next to the search bar here, the content on the site can be translated to pretty much any language spoken on Earth. So if someone in, Belarus wants to check out the website in their native language, in case they want to check on Peterborough, they can do that. I thought that was kind of a fun feature.
I see tuberculosis is also an option.
Come on.
Don't click that.
It says original text. Well, that's interesting. I'll have to figure out what's with that.
Probably shouldn't click that.
Yeah, let's not click that. We've already got the COVID thing. Let's not bring TV into the mix. Here you've got the little website tour button. When we go live, new visitors to the site can take a brief tour which explains how things are laid out. provide some tips and tricks about using the site, and we'll highlight some of the most commonly used features or the features that they predict will be most commonly used. So down here, this is really cool. So you can see we've got upcoming events here. On the old site, let me bounce back here. If we want to post about a meeting or a hearing, we have to create a posting for the front page. So we have to create it here, and then we have to go into the calendar, create additional calendar item, and then when the event has passed, we have to go in and manually remove it from the front page to keep this front page current. With the new site, calendar items automatically appear here under upcoming events in order of date. So once an event has passed, it automatically disappears from the front page, and the next upcoming event goes to the top of the list. And if you click on the event, so this is the meeting we're in right now, it populates this window with information, and we can include any files and documents right here in this window. So someone who clicks on there is just one click away from the agenda and the packet, which is really nice. So we go back here, close that out. So it's a much more efficient way of doing things. And if you click see all events, then that brings us to a classic calendar layout so people can see at a glance what we have planned for the future and what's happened in the past too. Okay, so we'll go back to home. Okay, so other items that we would traditionally feature on the front page that aren't event or meeting specific will go here under latest news and information. So if you click see all news, that kind of brings you to a list. So obviously there will be some more going on in here as we continue to get this updated. But it's a little carousel, so you'll see in just a moment this is going to change. And then folks have the option to see all news to review everything. Alerts. So on the old site, if we wanted to call folks' attention to specific things, we'd stick them here in this kind of awkwardly formatted space and hope that it would catch people's eye. On the new page, we have two features to help ensure that visitors are guaranteed to see the most important information of the moment. So this blue bar that you see here at the top, this is the global alert. So I put the town office is closed 118 in recognition of Martin Luther King Day here as an example. And this alert sticks to the top of the page regardless of what other pages on the site you visit. So it's just kind of stuck up there. It's pretty unobtrusive because it's right up here at the top. But if someone wanted to close out of it, they could, and it's no longer there. The other alert option is down here at the bottom. So we have a COVID-19 alert there right now. If we have this feature turned on, it will pop up anytime someone visits the home page, but it doesn't stick around if they visit another page within the site. But both of these alerts are optional, and both can be linked to either internal pages or to external websites. I think these will be really useful when we have things like water main breaks and road closures, just because they're guaranteed to catch people's eye. One of my favorite things is the library template. So here, so I went over government and under select board, minutes, packets, and videos. So if I click this, so you can see I've set this up for the select board, for the packet, minutes, and videos for meetings. This is essentially a digital file library where we can put any board and committee information. So we could set these up for other boards and committees as well. Here for the select board, you can see we've got all the meetings organized by date, and then we have the packets, the minutes, and then video. So the video links to Ustream, minutes links to select board approved minutes, And if you're wondering why I don't have the agenda listed there as well, it's because the agenda is always the very first page of the packet. So if people want to check out the agenda, they can click right there on the packet and it'll be right there. We also have the option of including a short description. So you can see I added these for last year's joint select board budget committee meeting and then the initial COVID discussions that we had. So if there's a special circumstance surrounding a meeting, we can note it here and kind of make it easier to find. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the home page. All right, so one of the new features we have is the Action Center, aka the Citizen Request Center. So this is a form that allows folks to send inquiries directly to the appropriate department right from the website. So they don't have to hunt down an email from our extensive contact list. They don't have to open up whatever program they use for their email. They can send an inquiry right here from the page. And you can see it's noted here. Please note that this resource is for non-emergency, non-urgent matters only. But then once people fill everything out, you do see that we request first name, last name, so this isn't, anonymous tipster type of situation. Once they fill everything out and submit it, it instantly is routed to whomever we have assigned on the back end for these different departments or topics. Then we ask your preferred method of contact to ensure that we know the best way to get a hold of them. Okay. So one of the other features that you see on a lot of municipal sites that ours was missing is the how do I option that you see up here. So this is another tool that can kind of simplify the experience for a visitor to the site. If they know what they need, they can use the prompts to connect them to the right page in a single click. So we got a lot of calls, a lot of questions about how to register to vote. So how do I, and then register, registering to vote. And that'll take them right to the page, which is a subpage of the town clerk. And this is neat too. So if folks want to increase the size of the text on any of our internal pages, they can use these icons right up here to increase or decrease. So you can see I can bump this up. So this could be really helpful for some of our older residents or folks who are vision impaired. One of the things that we really liked in general about Revise is that they're very up to date about ADA compliance. And regardless of what kind of device people are using, if they're using a phone or if they're using their computer, everything is really easy to read and access. So those are some of the features that I was most excited about. So that was my detailed overview of what can be expected once we're live. My next steps are going to be assigning logins for the various department admins, getting those people trained up, filling out the calendar with the other board and committee meetings, and then figuring out the last little quirks and bugs. Making sure the pages are 100% accurate and complete is going to be an ongoing thing. But if someone's looking for something that should be on the site that isn't there, of course they can contact me and I'll make sure that they get it and then I'll put it on my list of things to add. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the new site?
Yeah, I think you may have already answered. We're looking at a desktop version, and so on a smartphone, whether it's iPhone or not, it'll look virtually the same on on phones?
Yes, it'll be arranged slightly differently so that things aren't right on top of each other, because obviously looking at it on a phone, it'll be more compact.
Right.
So all of the features will be there, but they'll be arranged in such a way that it's still very nicely organized and easy to navigate.
So, Ally, on the the current website, it seemed like anything, most everything that was coming up had to be, cluttering up the homepage. I really like what I see, and it sounds like that is not gonna happen with this because there's more emphasis on, using links to other pages or other documents so that you don't have to have, all of that stuff on one page. And that's the philosophy that we'll follow going forward, I hope.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. We wanted to reduce the amount of redundant information on the page, because if we post the same information in 3 or 4 different places and then there's an update, we then have to hunt down every place where we posted that information and update it manually. And of course, that leaves room for misinformation to be on the page. So the hope is to keep this a lot cleaner and just link back to whatever page has that information, or to reference it, elsewhere within the site, so that doesn't happen.
Another one I had was about the responsibility for keeping it up to date.
Mm-hmm.
In all honesty, and Nicole can testify to this, I used to complain a lot in 3 years, my last term, about the website, and I'd look to see who's on the planning board, for example, and I'd find somebody who resigned 2 years ago or something. It was always, it wasn't always updated. And is there anything that can be done about trying to make sure that, and I know it's difficult to fall just on one person, but somehow there has to be, because nothing discourages one more than going somewhere to look up something and have it not be right, or have it be incomplete or something. So that was a question I had.
Yeah, so ultimately, we're not going to have too many people accessing the site to make updates. There are some departments where it makes sense for those admins to have logins. Lots of things have been coming to me anyway, so I suspect that lots of those things will continue to come to me. We have certainly been cracking down somewhat on the vast amount of information that was on the old website, because we were getting a lot of those problems. There was outdated information, there was incorrect information, and that's frustrating when you think you've found the answer to your questions and nope, actually this hasn't been updated in 2 years. So I think we just need to be very clear about who is responsible for what in regards to especially the different department pages. And so when I touch base with the department heads and the other admins, that's certainly going to be something that we establish so that there's not confusion and we don't see that happening as much in the future.
Thank you.
I've also found with the current or older versions of the website, the search function was always greatly lacking. I type in, you never know which keyword to use, so you type in a few and get completely unrelated documents that come up, and it's a chore to sort through. How is this search function in its capability?
So the search function isn't functioning at the moment because the site has to be live. I asked Revise why this is the case because, Tyler, I had that same question and I wanted to check on the efficacy of that as well. They use Google to organize the different pages and the content within those pages. And then the search is done via a process where the site talks to Google to turn up results. So they will be internal results, but Google is kind of the brain behind populating them. But that was one thing that was really important to me that somebody would just be able to put in a single keyword and have what they need pop up. So if they didn't want to have to hunt through, the submenus, they wouldn't have to. So that is one thing I'm curious about as well, and I have high hopes. And if it's unsatisfactory, I will certainly be letting them know.
Well, can I follow up with a question or a comment about that? I agree with Tyler. I tried to use the search function and hardly ever had any success. And I think I figured out at one point that when you do that search, I don't know if the old system looked inside of a PDF file. I think, and that's where there's a lot of content there was on the, the ordinances and the planning board regs and the all of that stuff. A lot of it was PDF files, and the search didn't seem to be able to go into those files and look for something. PDF.
It does not, Google does not search PDF files unless the files have been indexed before they're uploaded. So
And-
you're not,
and-
it's
And
unlike.
there is ways now with PDFs that you can, I just made a PDF document so that it had a table of contents, for example, and if you go into a PDF file and click on that, whatever number 5 is in the contents, it's gonna go right there. Now, I don't know if a search would find that or not, but there seems to be some movement to make PDFs more user-friendly. And again, I'm not sure that that's going to be applicable for us, but I do think that's where a lot of the problems were, searching. What you're searching for is in a PDF document, isn't going to find it.
That's true, and I think I believe that it's not able to search text that's contained within a PDF, but we do have ways of applying tags to files and to PDFs so that they could potentially populate in a search. We also can be very specific when we title those PDFs in the hopes of capturing some of the information there so that they would pop up in a search.
Yeah, and that would definitely help, I think. I think it looks great myself. I am very excited about what I saw.
Oh, good.
And I believe that it is really the thinking, it has been that way for a few years, to declutter home pages, have more drop-down menus and links, including links to other pages, and do away with redundancy. So all of that is very clear that it's there. So great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, nicely done, Ally. Great work, thanks.
Thank you.
Looking forward to, did it say January 29th? That's when it's going on?
That's what I put in there as a date. I can't guarantee that will be the date. I think that might be a Saturday, actually. But the date that you put in for the upcoming news and info determines what order they appear. So I wanted that to be right up towards the top. So that's why I stuck that date in there. But yes, hopefully by the end of this month, or maybe February 1st, an early Valentine's Day present to the town of Peterborough, maybe.
Very nice.
Thank
Well,
you.
if it did land on a Saturday, people could have all day Saturday to look at it.
Really soak it in. Yeah, will there be a virtual ribbon cutting ceremony?
We don't have one planned, but I feel like with all the time and effort that's gone into this, that would be nice if there was.
Yeah.
Well, I nominate Ally to cut the virtual ribbon.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bill.
Excellent. All right, thanks so much. Great way to end the meeting for now. It's 5:45, and I suppose we'll adjourn and hope everybody comes back at 6 p.m. to hear our budget meeting. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right. All in favor?